I was away last week and I just wanted to read something to you that I wrote in memoriam Bob Collymore. Last week I attended my eldest daughter's graduation in Durham, a university that I had attended as well, but not with as much distinction as my daughter Aisha, who graduated with a first-class honours degree and of whom I'm so proud. As I sat in that more than 1,000-year-old cathedral Church of Christ, Blessed Mary the Virgin, and St. Cuthbert of Durham, commonly known as Durham Cathedral, it felt a little hallucinogenic. I wished my departed mother and my father-in-law, both of whom had adored my daughter, had been with me, and as I sat in those pews in the cathedral, my mind was also thinking of another friend, Robert Collymore, Esquire. And I say Robert because that's how Bob's mother always called him. I had been with Bob and with the Boys Club twice the preceding week, and on the second occasion, on the Saturday afternoon, he had turned to Bharat Thakra, the CEO of Scan Group, and said to Bharat, "I want to be cremated. How do I go about it?" And Bharat referenced the Upanishads, which is like the Bible or the Quran. And Bob said, "I've read the Upanishads, Bharat." And I knew he had, because some years ago he had read every religious source document, including the Quran, and was in the habit of asking me pointed questions about the Quran, about which I was singularly ill-qualified to answer, especially given that I was drinking his best whiskey at the same time, to his chagrin, and about which he indulged me. I said this to the Financial Times: he was right on top of his business, finger on the pulse, but at the same time he had this unhurried ability to make you feel he had all the time in the world to hear what you had to say. And I think more than anything, his mission was to empower Kenyans to join the 21st century. It was about putting the ability to communicate, to do business, into our back pockets, and he really did that. And the moments I savored most when Bob came back were moments like when he came back from Seattle, having been invited by Bill Gates. And I would say, "Bill Gates, huh?" And he would say, "Yes." And they wanted to hear what I had to say. And for a moment it was like we were little boys, him from Guyana, me from Mombasa, I of course living vicariously through what he was telling me. But those moments were really the best. And I remember how it all started many, many years ago. And in those days it was all about Bob and how he was going to fill some big shoes. And Bob would turn to Patrick Kwaku, Patrick is at Radio Africa Group, and say, "What about that headline?" And Patrick, like he always does, says, "Let me speak to the Mzungu." That's William Pike. And that was always Patrick's excuse. Under Bob, Safaricom grew more than sixfold in terms of market capitalization. He came in 2011, the share price even dropped to 2 shillings and 50 cents for a few brief days. But you've seen a sixfold increase in the share price. And the point is, it was a golden age for shareholders, and the returns he produced for shareholders were among the top percentile worldwide. Top percentile worldwide, not just, in Kenya or in Africa. And we were talking not a few days ago about the valuation of Airtel Africa, which is in 14 countries and recently IPO'd in London. But Safaricom is valued at more than 3 times Airtel Africa. And there is a Bob Collymore premium in that valuation. And that's a fact. And he did it with empathy, panache, very droll, very English type of sense of humor. And because of his posture, it is easy to skip over the complexity around his navigation. The regulatory framework was oftentimes a minefield. He managed multiple stakeholders and always kept his foot on the accelerator. If ever there was a golden goose that laid golden eggs, that was it. The pivot to financial services was a very big deal. And most of all, he believed in the information century and in connecting every Kenyan to the information superhighway. He once said to me, "I spend my time thinking about the $1 a day Boda Boda offering." And that is really captures the essence of the man and the leader. And it was a privilege to know him all those years and to see him navigate Safaricom into this enormous behemoth that it is today. I condole with Bob's wife Wambui and his family, and in the spirit of his syncretism, will conclude with Kabir. Whenever I feel sad about my mother or anyone who's passed away, I read this poem to myself. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to read it to you. Between the poles of the conscious and the unconscious, there has the mind made a swing. Thereon hang all beings and all worlds, and that swing never ceases its sway. Millions of beings are there. The sun and the moon in their courses are there. Millions of ages pass, and the swing goes on. Rest in peace, Bob Collymore, friend, outstanding CEO, and really a great person. And I'm sorry I was not here last week for the funeral.